Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm going to be giving you a quick overview of one of the new Seiko 5 releases to come out this year. That is this guy here, the SRPE53. You can see it has the suggested retail price of $275 US. And then flipping this tag around too, they also try and brand this as part of the Prospects line from Seiko, which I thought it was kind of interesting. Now, I do want to thank my good friend who goes by the name Hacking Seconds on Instagram for lending in this watch for the review. I'm going to link to his Instagram profile in the description of this video. So since Seiko revitalized the 5 series of watches, I think they really stepped up their game from previous iterations that came from Seiko 5s in the early 2000s. For example, I'm going to hold up the first Seiko 5 I ever purchased for under $100. That's this guy here. I think they nicknamed it the Speed Racer because of the graduated yellow track that runs to the 20-second mark. Now, relative to the old Seiko 5, I think the new iteration does improve on many things. First and foremost, I do like the new Seiko 5 logo a lot better. You can see the old model went with the Seiko shield there, whereas this one uses the offsetted Seiko S. And while some people still don't really enjoy it, I do find it works very well under that really nicely applied Seiko printed logo under the 12 o'clock position. And from my standpoint, other significant improvements include the case dimensions and the crown positioning. So on the older model, you could barely operate the crown. You can see how small it is and it's recessed into the case. Case diameter in this guy is 37 millimeters, which were pretty small on my wrist. Now if you contrast that to the case dimension here, this comes in at just around 40 millimeters across the case, and they really improved the crown size and the knurling on the crown, so it's really easy to operate. Now I think you guys might tell that I'm a sucker for a nice blue dial. Both of these watches do it quite well, and the overall legibility is quite high, even in low light conditions. In fact, I'll throw up a low light shot now. I'll do a bit of comparison between the old Seiko 5 on the left and the current Seiko 5 on the right hand side. And you can see that both of the index and hand sets lights up extremely well on both models. I love the addition of that counterpoint lollipop on the needle seconds hand for the new Seiko 5. It just helps a little more with orientation. Now, before lending this watch in for the review, my friend remarked that this watch kind of reminded him of a Tudor Black Bay Heritage, the 41mm fixed bezel version. And I can see how this watch evokes similar traits. Both the Tudor Heritage Black Bay and this watch are kind of like a pared down version of the divers that preceded them before their time. Both watches are extremely legible, and the feel and comfort on wrist is very similar between the two. Now there are numerous Seiko 5 models that have the SRPE designation from the mid-50s up to the 60s, meaning you can get different colorways. You can get it on bracelet, you can get it on NATO or leather straps. Personally, this is my favorite, and I really love that gorgeous blue sunburst dial. With Seiko, you always get amazing dials for the money, and this one is no exception. At a macro level, I really love the applied Seiko logo and the minimal amount of writing on the rest of the dial. You have your classic Seiko applied markers with silver surrounds. The 12, 6, and 9 have a nice snail trail there on the markers. And having a day and date complication is a really great feature to have if you consider this an everyday style watch. Now flip to the side, I think you can see that the lug to lug dimensions is also quite compact. I measure it at 44.5 millimeters. Case thickness comes in at about 11.9 millimeters by my calipers, and that's to a flat hardlex crystal. And then the lug opening here for the supplied bracelet is a universal 20 millimeters. This watch is powered by the Seiko in-house 4R36 movement, which is very much a workhorse movement for the Seiko Prospex lineup. You got 24 joules, about a 42-hour power reserve. It beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and it is hacking in hand wind. Now, if you want to manually wind the movement, you can do so in the neutral position here. The crown itself is not screwed down, so you only have 100 meters of water resistance, which is perfectly acceptable for more of a field style watch. Now, if you pop it out to the first position, you can quickly set the day and date. And then if you do pop it all the way out, you can see that it has stop seconds or hacking, and you can set to any reference time you like. Now, if you flip it over, the 4R36 movement is visible through the display caseback. And while this movement isn't decorated extremely well, it does run quite accurately. In the week I've had it on the wrist, it picks up about +6 seconds per day, which is well within the tolerances for this type of movement. Now, case finishing is pretty good for the price. For this model, you do get a nice high polish on that fixed bezel, and then you have some nice brushing reliefs on the tops of the lugs. Flip to the side, you can see the case flank is all done in high polish. You have an unside ground. You have drilled lug apertures, which makes swapping out this bracelet for a strap very easy to do. And I gotta tell you right now, with that beautiful blue sunburst dial, this watch is an absolute strap monster. It looks great on leather, and it looks great on NATO straps as well. Now, if they did cut corners anywhere, it's going to be on the bracelet, which shouldn't surprise a lot of Seiko fans. First off, if you look at the links themselves, they're just held in with split pins, so you can just push them out, which does make it quick to size, but it's not the most robust way to keep the links together. You can actually see that there's a big crease on the center of the links, which to me kind of suggests they might be folded over and not completely solid. The clasp is standard Seiko affair. You just have this flip lock here, twin trigger release to a very high polished pressed out metal clasp here, which is okay, it keeps it very thin. I take more of an issue with the length of the clasp. There's only 2 micro adjustment holes, and it does feel truncated. You probably could have elongated it and added at least a 3rd micro adjustment. And additionally, if you look at the end links here, you can see that they are hollowed out. They're not solid end links by any measure. That said though, the fitment of the hollow end links to the case is actually pretty good. Now here's a quick wrist shot of the Seiko5 SRPE53 on my 19 centimeter circumference wrist, which is about 7.5 inches. And this is where the watch really does shine through, just with the fit and the finish of this watch. I love the sunburst blue dial, and wearing it for long periods on the wrist is very, very comfortable to do. So guys, at the end of the day, I do think Seiko5 really did step up their game with this series of watches. Yes, for little money, they could have made some improvements, and it's the usual suspects. They could have swapped out the hardlex for a sapphire crystal. They could have made this a screw-down crown for enhanced water resistance. They could have upgraded the bracelet and clasp to have solid end links and more micro adjustment. But those are really minor gripes when you compare the overall package. And again, this is one of my favorite Seiko5 watches to date. But guys, I'd love to know your opinion in the comments below. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one.